starting at the very beginning for me. When I say the beginning, it was the beginning of my professional career. The first year I ever fished professional tournaments, and it was the second event I ever fished as a pro. Gosh, I remember like it was yesterday. It was the fall of 1999. It was on Lake Champlain. Again, the second event I ever fished as a pro. Still kind of a little intimidated. All my heroes are out here fishing around me, and had a great first day. Had an amazing second day, weighed in 24 pounds, and I'm leading going into the last day of the event. And trailing me is Rick Clunn, David Fritz, gosh, Randy Fight, all these guys that I've read about for years. And what an unbelievable feeling. And I've got a Bassmaster camera crew on me. And man, to say I was nervous is an understatement. And we had a major cold front come through on the final day of the event. And I had been catching a early limit of smallmouth that only weighed like 13 to 15 pounds. And then I would go run and fish for largemouth. These were mostly isolated largemouth. I was flipping around boat docks and reeds and isolated logs and tire reefs and all these kind of things. And I was getting really big quality largemouth bites. Well, the last day of the event rolls around and I get to my first place, and I decided to forego the smallmouth altogether. I said, if I want to win this tournament, I want to fish for these big largemouth right off the giddy. And I get to my first spot, I drop the trolling motor, and I look at the water temperature gauge, and the surface temp had dropped 10 degrees literally overnight. And, I go to the first spot, fish 30 minutes without a bite. I go to the next place, 30 minutes. Well, after about 2 hours and 45 minutes of doing this, I don't have a single bite yet, not a single largemouth. And so I end up in this area where, and now I've got this camera on me. I'm kind of half embarrassed. I'm not catching them. And I'm thinking I'm going to blow this thing. And I look across, and there's a smallmouth place where in practice, I hadn't fished it the whole event, but in practice, I caught a few 2 to 3 pound class smallmouth. And I thought, you know what? Let me run over there while I'm here, go try to get a limit real quick to settle me down, and then I'm going to go back and flip for largemouth. Well, I get over there, I run over there, and remember the camera boat's with me this entire time. I get over there and drop the troll motor, and I'm headed up, getting close to this waypoint, and I'm casting a jerk bait. And I throw that jerk bait out there, and I'm getting closer to my waypoint, and all of a sudden I hook one. And God, first bite of the day, and I'm fighting it. And I see him jump way out there, and it's not big. It's like a 2 pounder, and I'm just like, gosh, okay, it's first fish. I'm excited. And as it gets closer to the boat, Lake Champlain, crystal clear water. As it's getting closer to the boat, I look down as I'm fighting this fish, and I see this massive black cloud behind this little 2 pound smallmouth that I'm fighting. And it's almost like time stopped. And I looked at that cloud, and I was like, what the heck? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, is it a sea creature? Is it the blob? Is it something from Creepshow, the movie? And as I looked closer, all of a sudden, like I stopped breathing and I realized what it was. And it was a massive school smallmouth from 2 to 4 pounds. There must have been several hundred of them all following this one smallmouth I had hooked. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even concentrate. I grabbed the buoy. I dropped it. I kind of had to turn away. I couldn't even look anymore. I flipped the 2 pounder in, and on every cast for the next 45 minutes, I caught a fish. It was the most unbelievable little flurry of smallmouth action I ever had. But here's where the story gets more interesting. So the action was so fast and furious, and at the time, you were allowed to use a net in bass in BSS events. And I was hooking these fish on a jerk bait, and a lot of times they would get caught. The hooks, treble hooks, would get caught in the net. To save on time, they kept getting caught. I was getting frustrated. I was getting a scissors, and every time I'd cut that net just a little bit because I wanted to just save on time. Well, finally I get to where I've cut a big hole in the net now, and I finally hook a good one, like a 4 pounder. I'm fighting them on the jerk bait. I go to net them. It pops out of the jerk bait, but I'm excited. I'm like, yeah! I lift the net in, and the fish, I had cut a hole in the bottom net, and the fish falls out of the hole, and I lose the best fish of the day. But wait a minute, it gets more interesting. So I shake that off. I go back to throwing a jerk bait, and now I'm about an hour in to catching them almost every cast. I'm not using the net anymore. I'm swinging them in, but they stop biting the jerk bait real good. But they start biting a tube. So what's happening is I'm able to see the fish follow the jerk bait. They stop on it, but I have a tube rigged up to the eyelet on another rod, and I quick reel the jerk bait in. I pick up the tube, and if I fire it out there real quick over to where I saw that fish, I'd catch them. I mean, and so now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most unbelievable thing. It's all happening. It's the last day of the event, and so I see a good one, like a 3.5 pounder, follow the jerk bait and just stop, and I go, and he don't want it. I quick reel the jerk bait in, and I put it down, and I go to grab my other rods on the other side of the deck, and I go to grab it, and I go to flick open the bail, and as I go back to make the cast, I hear a splash. I hear, and like out of the corner of my eye, I look, and my jerkbait rod is flying into the water. So I hadn't made a cast yet with that other rod, and I barely grab it by the handle, and in one motion, swing in this 3.5 pounder. Well, what had happened is when I reeled that jerkbait in real quick, it was laying on the top of the water, and these smallmouth were so aggressive. He came up right next to the boat and ate it off the top, and it was unbelievable. But they're kind of three neat stories, all true stories that happened the first year that I ever tournament fished, and I ended up winning that tournament, won the second pro event I ever fished. But they're the kind of things that happen on the water all the time to us. So keep listening, because every blog that we do, every time I talk to you, we're gonna have a new story for you.